You think you know how the world works? You think that this material universe is all there is? But what if I told you the reality you know is one of many?
What the? This doesn't make any sense.
Not everything has to, Doctor Strange. Through the mystic arts, we harness energy and shape reality.
The Avengers protect the world from physical dangers. We safeguard it against more mystical threats.
Come with me.
Hi, welcome to What the Flick. My name is Christy. That's Alonzo. That is Matt. Geeks of the world unite. There's another Marvel movie out, and I know that a lot of you have been pumped about this. It is Doctor Strange. Please describe it to us, comic book person.
All right, Doctor Strange Dr. Stephen Strange is a brilliant neurosurgeon, kind of the best one in the world, will turn down particular operations because he's arrogant and he doesn't want to ruin his perfect record. He gets in a car wreck and comes out and he's got shaky hands, which means that he can no longer perform surgery. He travels around the world trying to find various cures. He'll stop at nothing. He ends up in
Nepal.
Kathmandu.
Kathmandu in Nepal, searching for a cure and finds something that may be a little bit more magic than science and starts a whole new chapter of his life. Let's watch the trailer.
Be careful which path you travel down, Strange. Stronger men than you have lost their way. I am death. And pain. You'll die protecting this world. I can't do this. There is no other way.
I've spent so many years peering through time, looking for you.
Okay, so I will just start out by saying I knew nothing about this going into it.
Okay.
I had not even heard of this character prior to this movie. You can come at me now, please. I don't know any of this stuff, but I'm coming into it totally blindly and cold.
Okay.
And I dug it. Like, I'm not sure that you necessarily have to have any kind of knowledge of the character. It's clearly like the beginning of his franchise. This is his origin story, and they explain it very
You don't even
efficiently.
need to know how the Marvel Universe works, I think, to get this movie.
I mean, it has little driblets of Marvel
sure.
stuff.
I'm glad you brought that up though, because this, it's interesting to look. If you look at the history of what Marvel was doing with their licensing, they gave all their really popular characters, not gave them away, but they cut deals to do their really popular characters. The X-Men and Spider-Man and Fantastic Four were all done with these other studios. And the Spider-Man movies were pretty good. The X-Men movies were pretty good, but they were doing these second-tier characters. We all forget that back in the day, back when Iron Man hit, like Iron Man was not a first
everybody thought of him as
Captain
kind of
America
second
was
rate,
kind of a joke,
yeah.
right? Like Captain America was this cheeseball character. Doctor Strange is another one. Doctor Strange is at best a B-list character, or more like C-list in the Marvel pantheon. And they put him right to the forefront here, and they make this character work. And it's really, look, like you said, you come into this, you don't know anything, you're gonna have a great time. If you know this character, it's a slightly different spin on some of the surrounding mythology, but they capture the core of it. Doctor Strange is an arrogant prick, like starts out that way, and kind of learns to be a little bit less of one.
He's a Tom Cruise character.
Kind of, yeah. I mean, all right, so basically, it's Top Gun.
It's space age Top Gun.
I had a great time with this movie. For one thing, I was so burned out on CG this year. Like, I feel like there have been so many movies that were these just sort of like this shower of pixels that didn't mean anything. X-Men Apocalypse and Batman versus Superman. And so to see a movie where they actually have something interesting to do with the effects, and they use the effects in a way to actually tell a story in a way that you otherwise couldn't. I think the result is you see there are visuals in this movie that are not like anything I've ever seen in a mainstream commercial movie before.
I will raise my hand and say this owes a great debt to Inception. in the urban landscape folding
Sure.
and manipulating. It reminded me of that immediately. And they go to that over and over again. And it's cool as shit to see. It's awesome and how they play with space and time. But I do feel like we have seen that particular image before.
Well, I think they take it to the next level.
Oh yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, no,
Right, I mean-
I'm not complaining.
And I do
It's
say
great.
this is a movie that's worth paying to see in 3D, which I
I
almost
3D
never say.
on IMAX, like that's. I agree with you. Look, like, does it owe, especially when it's folding up the city? Yes. Like, we've seen a city get folded in Inception. We haven't necessarily seen New York being treated as an M.C. Escher drawing, and not just standing there still. Like, the movement in it is fascinating. And one of the things this movie does really well is it uses those effects and the dimensions and the perspective to drive the story in a way that's really interesting, because early on we see some of those scenes and they don't really bother to explain what's happening. But you can tell that there's something different going on just by the language of the visuals, which I think is really cool. And then when you get, oh, okay, now I understand why they're doing this, why things look different when this happens. But you get that halfway through the film when somebody explains it. But it starts off and you could follow along as an audience, like, oh, all right, something's different here. Wizards are fighting, and then things look different again. I loved it. I think that, yes, have we seen bits of this? Is it derivative of Inception? Sure,
Yeah,
but
no,
then
I'm
I
not
think it takes
complaining.
it to the next level.
It's super cool, and yeah, and that is germane to the story and who they are and how they relate to each other. Versus like, this is just a cool trick we can pull off.
Right.
Right.
So
and the cosmic stuff, like the stuff where he's traveling through dimensions, and you see, as his astral self travels around in these different universes and different worlds, is, I mean, this will sound cliched, it is unlike anything we've seen on film before. And
Well, in a Hollywood movie,
In a Hollywood movie, sure.
like you'd have to go to somebody like Jodorowsky, I think, to find some of the really kind of trippier visuals that are going on here. But for a big popcorn bucket movie, this movie I think is taking some real chances and succeeding with them. I mean, yes, it's the origin story. We've seen the origin story a million times, but a couple things it does right. First of all, amazing cast. So, even if you've seen this story a million times, it's Benedict Cumberbatch and it's Tilda Swinton and Chiwetel Ejiofor and Rachel McAdams. And, so they're bringing some life to it. I really appreciated the fact that we get this little character nugget about Doctor Strange, that he has this encyclopedic knowledge of pop music. And it comes up a couple of times, but then it doesn't come up in Act 3 to save the day. Like usually in a movie, if somebody has an interesting quirk about them, it's going to feed into the plot later. Nope, it's just an interesting quirk. And so few, commercial movies have time to stop for just an interesting quirk.
Well, I would say they don't even take time to stop necessarily. Like, they establish really efficiently who this guy is within just a few moments in terms of the way he interacts with everybody else in the operating room, the drawer that he pulls out with the rotating watch display, the kind of car he drives, just the way he interacts with everybody. They establish very quickly, as you say, he's an arrogant prick, but the quirks about his arrogant prickishness, which make him interesting.
That arrogance is somewhat justified because you get a sense his knowledge is so encyclopedic, and when he talks about how quickly he's learning these different aspects of magic as he's burning through these books, he references how fast he got his PhD, like how fast he went through med school because he was studying so many things at once. And so, okay, you buy that. One of the things we should talk about is we have to talk about the casting here,
With Tilda Swinton.
with Tilda Swinton, right? Like, there's no way around that. And is it whitewashing? Yeah, it probably is. It's hard to say as a guy who's not Asian. You have to wonder, is this, could they have managed to do this without pissing somebody off?
Well,
right?
It's a tricky balance, because that character, if you'd played it with an old Asian guy the way the comics do, then that itself is a cliche. The sort of Mr. Miyagi font of wisdom. I will say this. Tilda Swinton is not playing an Asian person, and that is,
Right, it's not Joel Grey and Remo Williams.
Thank you. Yeah, so it might be whitewashing, but it's not yellowface.
It's not Mickey Rooney, rather.
Oh God, and Breakfast at Tiffany's.
No, I mean, look, like, there's, I would, for people that are wondering, like, look up the article that Jen Yamato did where she talks to Scott Derrickson about this, and it's his take on it. Like, he's kind of said, yeah, you know what, we made a mistake. Like, he's, I'm paraphrasing here, but he's come back and he said, yeah, you know what, I didn't have an appreciation of what it was going to do. We thought we were doing the right thing, casting a female in this role and going in a different direction, and we didn't get it right. And we're going to try and do better next time.
And yet you have Tilda Swinton, one of the greatest, most versatile actresses we've ever seen,
Yeah.
playing this role. So how do you question what she brings to it
Right.
as a performer? It's,
Right.
it's a tough choice to make. It's a tough balance.
Right, and the
there,
history
yeah.
of that character is such, the history of the Ancient One character is such, it is kind of a no-win situation, right? Now, what I will say is that they do take the character of Wong, who in the comics is definitely subservient to Doctor Strange, and they put him as an equal here. They put him as a...
He's a master also.
He's a master just like Doctor Strange is. So that's a different take on that, which for what it's worth, that's something.
Yeah. Anyway, I had a blast. Yeah, we would never condone drugs here on One Flick.
Oh, never.
Wait,
But
what?
if you have any kind of substance,
What's this we should?
you might enjoy prior to a showing of Doctor Strange, we would not dissuade you from doing that.
This might be a good time for that quarter cookie you've had sitting in your pantry for a while.
Yeah, no, it is a blast, and I saw it in 2D, and these guys saw it in 3D. I saw it in 2D at the Disney lot yesterday, and was still overwhelmed by the visuals. We should mention Benedict Cumberbatch. He's really good.
He's very
He's
funny.
doing an American accent.
It's a convincing American accent. Mads Mikkelsen is in here too, and I think a little underutilized. But if you always wanted to watch Hannibal and Sherlock get into a fight, this is your movie.
This is your fan fiction.
Yes.
So what are your numbers then, guys?
I was at 8.8.
Yeah.
Yeah, 8.8. I thought this was a blast.
Yes.
Yeah, I liked it a lot. I mean, again, it is an origin story. It's the same thing we've kind of seen before, but this brings some, it's a new execution of it. I liked it a lot. I give it an 8.
I'm saying 8.2. It is thrilling, but it's also cheeky and very funny in the way that like Guardians of the Galaxy is.
Right.
It's a legitimate, thrilling adventure, but it also has a little fun with itself. It's not totally self-serious.
Yeah,
So
like
I had a good time.
You believe like Stephen Strange in the real world. You believe mystical Doctor Strange across the dimensions, and you also see where that guy is going to fit into the larger sort of superhero universe that's been
Yes.
created
Right,
here.
and
Stay for the shawarma.
Oh
Stay
yeah,
for
there's
2
two.
Oh, are
Easter
there
eggs.
two?
There's two.
I just saw one in the middle of the credits.
We'll talk about it off mic.
Okay.
Stay for 2.
So our average is at what? 8.3.
Right,
Where
it's
is
at
it?
90% on the tomato meter, certified fresh.
One of the better Marvel movies lately, I would say.
It was in my top 5. I do a ranking on the Wrap if you're interested.
Bye.